And I'm going to start by sharing my screen with you all. And what I'm going to be talking about this evening is a description of makeable contracts and the par or optimum bridge score in duplicate bridge. And a number of people have asked me about this, and I sometimes see people in particular not having exactly the right idea of what the par score is. So I'm going to describe how that works, and it may not be exactly what you expect. So I'm going to be talking about the par score in duplicate bridge, which you can see when you look at the results. I'll refer to that in a moment. But I thought I'd start with a definition of what it is. So in duplicate bridge, if both sides bid to their best possible contract, outbidding the opponents if necessary, the result is called the par or optimum score. And it's a score that gets determined by the computer automatically. So it's a little different from what you might be thinking of, like the par score in golf, where the par on a particular hole is determined by what a proficient golf player would get, a par 4 or par 5 or whatever, and it's determined based on the hole by using some judgment. But it's slightly different from the par score in bridge that some of you have seen, and it's also not exactly what you think it might be in all situations. So let's have a look at a hand that's actually played last week. This was a hand from a couple of weeks ago, last Thursday. And we'll just have a look at this. There are two places you can see the makeable contracts. So this was a hand, board 3, that was played on Real Bridge, and the results were loaded to the Pinnerbridge website on BridgeWebs. And this is how it looks when it's displayed. So the first thing, we see the hand as it was played, and in the bottom right-hand corner, there's a little grid of makeable contracts. Now, this grid assumes best possible declarer play and best possible defense, which of course doesn't always happen. And what it says here is that North-South could make 4 clubs on this hand, or they can make 1 heart, or they can make 3 spades, or they can make 2 no trump. And then it also says that East-West have 1 contract they can make, which is 2 diamonds. And sometimes it differs the number of tricks that can be made depending on whether you're north or south, although in many cases it's the same as it is in this case here. So what this is saying up here in the top right-hand corner is that the optimum score is 140 to north-south. And that 140 occurs if north-south bid and make 3 spades. So the score for making a part score in spades, making 9 tricks, is 140. And that's the best score that north-south can get. Although on this hand, they can actually bid and make 1 more trick in clubs, they can make 4 clubs. That doesn't score as well, because making 4 clubs scores just 130. So the optimum score there is what you might expect, and it's 140. It's not necessarily saying that that's the contract you should be in. In fact, I wouldn't really expect most North-Souths to be in a spade contract, because as you can see, they've got a much better club fit. But that is the best score that you can get. And East-West don't really figure into this, because their best score is 2 diamonds, making their way. Okay. Now, you can see this score and this grid in the bottom right-hand corner here. And you can also see a very similar grid when you're actually playing on Real Bridge, and you can look at it afterwards. So to look at it afterwards, if you go to the top here and you click on the Real Bridge link, that will take you sorry, let me bring that back up. That will take you to a screen like this, where you can see the results from last Thursday. And if you click on the board you're interested in, board 3, you have a very similar grid displayed here. The only difference is that this grid shows you not the makeable contracts, but the number of tricks that can be made. So it includes all, even situations where you can't actually make a contract, because it's added six, if you like, to the makeable contracts. But the information is exactly the same as is on the other screen. It's saying that North-South can make 10 tricks with clubs as trumps, that they can make 9 tricks with spades as trumps. And then here, it's got what it's calling the par score. It was called the optimum score on the other screen, which is 2 spades plus 1. And that is indeed the best score that North-South can make on this, with best possible play and best possible defense. Okay, does anyone have any questions on that? One person asked me if these makeable scores always add up to 13, and they don't, although they do in some cases. So, for example, if you look at a diamond contract, it's saying that East-West can make 8 tricks with diamonds as trumps, North-South can make 5 tricks with diamonds as trumps, and that does add up to 13. But that's not always the case. You see, it's not the case in clubs, where it adds up to 12, or in spades it adds up to 12, or in no trump it adds up to 11. So but you can nonetheless look at this, and it is useful. You know, if you played this in clubs and you didn't make the optimum number of tricks, then you can replay it and try and figure out why that is the case. So that's a fairly straightforward example of the par score. But let's look at another one. Do stop me if you want to ask any questions on this. Let's look at board 8. This was quite an interesting one of the same evening. And you can see on this one, nearly everyone played this in heart game East-West. And according to the computer, East-West can make 12 tricks with hearts as trumps. So you might expect the par score to be 6 hearts making, which would be a score of 980. But what happens on this is that if East-West do bid 6 hearts, then North-South should bid 6 spades, because North-South can make 8 tricks with spades as trumps, and the best that they can do, if the other side bids 6 hearts, is to bid 6 spades. And then the best that East-West can do, if they do bid 6 spades, is to double them. And that would result in a penalty score of 800. But that 800 score is better, suffering that penalty, than letting East-West make 6 hearts. So that's why the par score on here is shown as minus 800, 6 spades doubled minus 4. And it's not shown as 980, which is the best score that East-West could make. Anyone have any questions on that? Do interrupt me, because I know it's not exactly what you might think. So sometimes the par score does look like a reasonable contract, and other times it's not. Other times it's a sort of strange thing. It's a sort of sacrifice bid, which I wouldn't really expect North-Souths to bid. Although I can see one pair did bid 4 spades, presumably over 4 hearts, and that was doubled and down 1. But that's what the par score means here. Okay, any comments on that? So let's have a look at a few other examples of a par score, and these are some hands that were not played, but I've put these into a session so that we can look at how the par score is worked out. So let's have a look at this hand here, and according to the grid here, you can see that North-South can make 3 no trump or 3 spades or 4 diamonds, whereas East-West can make 3 clubs. Okay, make 9 tricks in clubs. And on the face of it, it would look like the best score that North-South can get is for bidding and making 3 no trump. And indeed, if you look at the hand, you can see North-South can make 3 no trump. So you would think that might be the optimum or the par score. But it doesn't end at 3 no trump, because if North-South do bid 3 no trump, East-West, you can see, can make 9 tricks in clubs. So they should bid 4 clubs over 3 no trump. And even if 4 clubs is doubled, that would only be a penalty of 100 points. So so East-West should bid 4 clubs to get their best score here. And even if that's double, that's only 100 points. However, that's not the best possible score for North-South, because North-South can also make 4 diamonds. So North-South over 4 clubs should actually bid 4 diamonds. And that's where this optimum score of 130 comes from. It's the best score that North-South can make if East-West bid the best score. So it's not as good as bidding and making 3 no trump, and it's not particularly helpful to look at that. So when people have questions about what is the par score and how useful this is, it's sort of useful on some hands, but on others, it doesn't really help you. It's a bit of a weird thing to say that the optimum score is 130. But that's what it is according to the definition of how the par score is worked out. Okay, so a slightly unusual par score there, just because of the way it's defined. And if you see that par score is recommended as 4 diamonds making, that doesn't mean that that's what you should be aiming for. Obviously, I think 3 no trump would be a much better score here if you're given the chance to play there. So this definition of the par score is quite interesting, and in preparing for this talk, I sort of read up on this subject a bit, and it led me to an article that answered the question that I've been wondering about off and on for a while, which is, are there ever any hands where no one can make anything, where there are no makeable contracts? And it turns out that there are, though there aren't very many of them. And this is hand 2. This is an example of such a hand. So this hand, even though it looks like each side should be able to make some contract, the computer has determined that no one can make any contract. You can't even make 1 heart or 1 spade or 1 club or 1 diamond or 1 no trump. No one can make anything on this hand. And so the optimum score there is 0, which means that you should pass. So I wouldn't expect anyone would pass out this hand, because there's a lot of distribution. But it turns out with the best possible play and best possible defense, no one can make anything on this hand. And this hand I actually found in an article on the web written by Richard Pavlicek, who writes a lot of stuff about bridge. And he has done random simulations of some 10 million hands. And he has determined that out of 10 million hands, there are, that he got at random, 254 were par 0 scores, just 254. In other words, the chance that a random hand will have a 0 par score is about 1 in 41,000. So if you ever do come across a hand dealt at random or by the computer where the par score is 0, that's a very exceptional hand, and you won't come across that unless you've played about 40,000, come across and analyze about 40,000 hands.
Can I ask you a question, Tony?
Yes, please.
The slide before, Yeah, the slide shows that you can make north-south can make no trump, 3 no trump.
Which hand? This one, yeah. This one.
Yeah, 3
Yeah.
no trump. And
That's
then
right.
you said no, but it is again is how the east-west are making 3 clubs then after that.
So what I was saying on this one is that north-south can make 3 no trump. I think you can
Yes.
verify that for yourself.
Yes.
And it says that east-west can make 3 clubs.
Before that.
East-west can make 3 clubs.
Okay, yeah.
So if you bid 3 no trump, the best thing for east-west would be to bid 4 clubs and be defeated. And even if you double them, 4 clubs doubled down 1 is only 100 points. So on this hand, it's a weird one, but it turns out that if they do bid 4 clubs, north-south are better to bid 4 diamonds, which would give you a score of 130 rather than 100.
Yeah, in case they do the 4 clubs, then you have to go to 4 straight.
4 diamonds.
4 diamonds to 4 diamonds. Okay.
Because you can make 4 diamonds.
Yes.
Okay. With
but
best possible.
More point on 3 no trumps, isn't it?
Sorry?
But you will get more points on 3
Of
no
course. But I'm just explaining why on this hand, if you look at the par score or the Optimum score, it will come up and say it's 130. And you think, what? Why is it 130? And that's the reason. It's because of the way that the par score is defined. And you have to look at the best that each side can do. So they will outbid you. They won't let you play in 3 no trump if they find the best thing. They'll bid 4 clubs, and then you should bid 4 diamonds.
Yeah.
Okay. So there are some very strange things in the par score. I think this the fact that there are a very small number of hands where no one can make anything is particularly interesting, but that's what the computer says. So I believe the computer. So so you can read more information about the par score on Richard Pavlicek's website. He's got lots of examples. He's got some examples of hands where both sides can make the same contract, some strange things like that. So there are some weird things there. But what I really want to summarize with is that while the Makeable Contracts grid is useful, and you should look at that and try and determine whether you did the best you could, the par score or the Optimum score that you might see in real bridge is not always what you might expect. And when it says par score, it's not like a golf par score saying, it's a par 4. It's not telling you what the right contract to be in is. It's not what the expected contract should be, but it's just it comes out of this definition of par, of what it is, what the par score means in bridge, and it's not the same as saying that's what you should be in, right? So in that other example, you should be in 4 and 3 no trump. You shouldn't really be in 4 diamonds, even though that is what the computer has determined is the par score. Does anyone have any questions on that? So when you're playing on real bridge and you see that par score, don't worry about it too much. If it looks weird, it's probably due to some strangeness like we've just been looking at. And if you ever do come across a hand where the par score is 0 all round, then that is a pretty unusual hand. I don't remember ever having seen one, but as again, they do occur about once every 40,000 hands. Okay, so that was all I wanted to talk about this evening. Did anyone have any questions on any of that so far? If not, I'll stop sharing my screen with you.